In the same moment, drawing a deep sigh of relief from everyone, the hostile figure melted into the face of Big Brother, not distinguishable individually, but restoring confidence by the fact of being spoken. Patriotism has many shapes and forms. It can be constructive, symbolic, blind, and can even be called nationalist. All of these show themselves all around the world, in all countries. Constructive patriotism is a love for one's country and people so that he/she strives to make it better. A constructive patriot looks at all the flaws in his or her country, points them out, trying to fix them. Mark Twain once said, "Patriotism is supporting your country all the time, and when your government deserves it." Symbolic patriotism is similar. It is where one is not attached to the concrete things that make a country, but rather the abstract ideas that a country stands for. Symbolic patriotism is loving freedom of speech, press, etc., not loving the country because of the current president or the current makeup of the Senate. Theodore Roosevelt said patriotism means stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by the president or any other public official. Blind patriotism is loving one's country's in later to the point where one believes that every decision his or her government makes is the right one. A blind patriot believes everything his or her party tells them. Malcolm X said this about patriotism: "You're not supposed to be so blind with patriotism that you can't face reality. Wrong is wrong, no matter who says it." Nationalism ties together closely with blind patriotism. Nationalism is where one's love for his or her country is so great that they begin to believe in their country's superiority over others. Charles de Gaulle said patriotism is when love for your own people comes first. Nationalism, when hate for people other than your own comes first. It is essential that we never begin to confuse blind patriotism and nationalism as something positive for the world or our country. Blind patriotism in any aspect to a party, to a country, or to an organization of any sort is where we begin to lose ourselves. When we support a cause, no matter the consequences, we can easily be taken advantage of. We can be thrown into a war because that's what our great country needs of us, to win a war against the bad guys. Everyone in 1984 believes everything the party tells them, no matter how absurd or evil it may be. They blindly support the every move of the party. In the past, nationalism has often led to war and violence. The most notable case of extreme nationalism is, of course, the Holocaust in Nazi Germany. That was not the end of nationalism. We still, even in America, have some nationalist ideas and traits. We went to war against terrorism, which already is a biased perspective that many don't even begin to question. But we are America, and we're right? We can never allow ourselves to slip into the abyss of belief that America is right and the others are wrong just because we're America. In 1984, everyone in Oceania hates everyone in East Asia and Eurasia because they believe that the East Asians and Eurasians are inferior to them and live lives that are pathetic and poor, and that Oceania is just simply a superior country, which is a very nationalistic idea set, which helps cement themselves as slaves to the party, and they will never escape. However, both constructive and symbolic patriotism can very much benefit a country and its people. Constructive patriotism has led to some great things in American history and history around the world. First, it started off in America with the revolution itself. In India, the challenging of British colonial rule over India. Then back in America, the civil rights movement. And more recently, there's the women's rights movement and the movement towards LGBTQ acceptance and rights. These are just a few examples of the benefits of constructive patriotism against one's government and the society around them. If the people in 1984 were more capable of realizing the evil their government was making, and they had recognized it early before things got to where they couldn't challenge the government, they could have prevented becoming brainless workers for the party before it started. Patriotism is still very important to have. A country cannot succeed and do well without some form of support from its people. So believe in the cause of a country, or having symbolic patriotism is productive and helpful for a country. A symbolic patriot will still critique and be constructive towards their country because they believe in how great the country can be, and they believe in the fundamental foundation of the country. If people showed more constructive and symbolic patriotism in 1984, the party wouldn't have had so much control. Each and every person can fight against blind patriotism. It is as simple as knowing what you believe in and why you believe in it. Each person must be educated, and they must know what they are talking about. It's as simple as reading a few articles and doing a little bit of research, which is easier to do now than ever before. We must also read and understand both sides of every argument we have an opinion about. When we just read and acknowledge one side, then we become like the people in 1984. We'll believe that everything is black and white and good and bad, that our side will always be good, the other side will always be bad. As a society, we can avoid blind patriotism by not making things simply black and white and good and bad. Some people will always have conservative or all liberal viewpoints, and that's fine. But that's only fine if they base those viewpoints and opinions in facts that they have done necessary research and read for, and they have acknowledged both sides of the issue, both liberal and conservative, or any two sides in the middle of a conflict. The way we can stop blind patriotism is to, as a society, understand both sides of every argument. Once we understand both sides, we have safely grounded our opinions in those facts. Then we have successfully avoided blind patriotism.